Greetings, Dr. Mark Winton here from the University of Central Florida Department of Criminal Justice, and what I'd like to do in this video is to briefly mention a few things about the book review. Why would I want students to do book review? Well, multiple reasons, but I think the several ones that come to mind. First, I think it will be wonderful to have 30 plus book reviews that we all can read and get some more knowledge and ideas on some books that are out there on terrorism. And we may find that we want to pursue some of those books ourselves. Secondly, this provides you an opportunity to select a book that you can use throughout the semester on your specific interests, especially if you're going to write about a particular topic on your assignments. You can use that book as a resource. And third, it's a good exercise to begin to critically evaluate information regarding terrorism on what we know from other research. I think Professor Chanel from Nova University really has an interesting article, and I'll go ahead and I'll post the link in our announcements. How to read and review a book like a qualitative researcher. And this is from the Qualitative Report, Volume 15, 2010, pages 1635 to 1642. And he recommends that we first take a look at our own biases about the author, the book, and the topic. Certainly, we may gravitate toward books that have a focus that we would agree with, and then we might also read ones that we disagree with and try to get some different points of view and see how that works. When we get that book, we might want to get a general overview of it, and then to create some questions that we would like to answer as we read that book, and to see if the author answers those questions and how that information can be useful for terrorism studies. And also to look at how that book challenges your own thinking and that of your peers regarding terrorism. So I keep this really open-ended, and you can select any book that is remotely related to terrorism, and it can be a book that is just published. It could be an online book. For all practical purposes, it could be a think tank report that usually runs anywhere from 50 to 250 pages or so, something of that sort. And it can be a book that you read several years ago or even longer, and you would like to reread that book because you felt that it was a very important book. And also you can look at the historical aspects and changes. I have a couple of my own favorites here, and this one I'm actually going to post the link to, and you can download that free of charge from the Library of Commerce. But the government report, Who Becomes a Terrorist and Why? The 1999 government report on profiling terrorists. So we'll have the PDF of that book. I think it's a classic, and again, it's pre-9/11, and so you get some different ideas. Mark Sageman's Leaderless Jihad, Terror Networks in the 21st Century. So the whole idea of looking at leaderless terrorist groups, I think, is intriguing and important, and of course an interest to many. This was one of the first books I read. I think it was published in 2006. One of the first books I read on terror on the internet, and it's Gabriel Wyman's Terror on the Internet. Actually, your author, Bruce Hoffman, wrote the foreword. And I remember reading this book and just blown away by the aspects of terrorism growth through the online networking. So now you start putting all this together, leaderless terrorism, terror on the internet, and you get some very interesting ideas. Here's a book, Dying to Win, Robert A. Pape, The Strategic Logic of Suicide Terrorism, another book that I read when I was examining suicide terrorism from perspectives that are totally different from how I view suicide terrorism. So I'm trying to get information that I'm not very familiar with. This is a book I used in a genocide course a while back, but it also is relevant to terrorism, Mass Hate. Neil Kressel's The Global Rise of Genocide and Terror. This is a really helpful book. A lot of theoretical aspects in there as well. And then this is probably one of my favorites when it comes to profiling terrorists, Leaders and Their Followers in a Dangerous World, by Gerald M. Post, The Psychology of Political Behavior. For those of you who are into political profiling, this is really, or profiling leaders and followers of terrorism and other criminal behaviors and activities. This is really an excellent read. And I'll be posting some material from Professor Post, several articles that focus on profiling later on in the semester. And this one really blew my mind in the sense that I wasn't familiar with the intricate nature of nanotechnology or nano weapons. So this book here, Nano Weapons: The Growing Threat to Humanity by Louis Del Monte. I read this book, and you don't hear too much about nano weapons, and that might be because it's really scare a lot of people and the like. But I'm sure that those who are in security studies and counterterrorism probably have read several articles and books on nano weapons. So I thought that was just like a brief overview. And what I look forward to is reading those book reviews to get knowledge about areas that maybe I didn't know about before, books I hadn't read before, or even a book I've read. Maybe a book I've read several times over the years, and I take a look at that book review, I think about it differently. So the idea here and throughout the class will be for you to be able to pursue your specific interests. As I read the introductions, and wow, what a diverse class we have with areas of interest and backgrounds and education and probably focus of interest. And so, if you want to write about counterterrorism, security, that's fine. You could do that the whole semester. If you want to write about profiling terrorists, that's fine. If you wanted to write about several specific terrorist groups throughout the semester, that's fine with that. Focus on organization and leaders and so on. If you wanted to look at financing of terrorist groups, something I haven't really focused on at all in my own readings and research, just a couple articles here and there, but you're welcome to go that route as well. So I think the goal is for you to get a lot more information and ideas and knowledge and critically evaluate the areas that you have a specific interest in pursuing. And then when we read all those papers as they're posted, we have a wealth of information and knowledge throughout the semester, not necessarily from me, not completely from books, but from each other and our papers. And we'll learn a lot that way as well. So just a few ideas here, and you're always welcome to email me anytime if you have any comments or questions. And this wraps up this video. Thank you.